Hi, this is Daniela, and welcome to Bestie Life, the podcast, where we help you stop burnout now. If you're tired of running on empty, juggling all the things, and wondering when your life is supposed to feel better, you're in the right place. This show is your go-to space for real talk and practical strategies to help you protect your energy, create balance, and actually enjoy the life you're working so hard for. You'll get a mix of solo episodes and honest conversations with guests. My goal is to help you feel less alone, more empowered, and way more in control of your time and energy and well-being. So let's get into it. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast. And today I'm excited to dive in with Carol Clegg. She is a small business coach specializing in accountability, mindset, and marketing, partnering with women in midlife. She is a heart-centered entrepreneur who empowers small business owners to really share their gifts and create a lifestyle business that has flexibility and balance, which you know I love as well. So I'm just excited. Carol and I have chatted before on her podcast, and I'm excited to dive in and find out more about how she can help you, the tools she uses. So let's dive in. Thank you so much, Carol, for joining us today.
Hi, Daniela. Thanks for inviting me, and it's lovely to be here with you.
So can you share a little bit more about your background, your story, and your journey in this area?
Well, it has been a journey of change, and so that's what I, always want to remind women in their business cycle that it's not stagnant. You're not stuck in a box, and you could give yourself space to grow and change, and it never seems to stop. So when I go back about 15 years ago, marketing was my focus and love marketing and wanted to try to help other people with their marketing of their business and getting their word out, but with authenticity and without the pressure. And so I stepped into that for a couple of years and through that created masterminds because I love bringing people together to learn from each other. And those masterminds grew over time. And then I had this need to address for myself, and I think that's where we all sort of start from, is searching for a need to bring a little more clarity into my life, a little more positivity, a little more
Mm-hmm.
silencing of the negative voices that can get really loud. And I discovered a training called Positive Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about 3 years ago. And through that, I started a small group. Once again, this whole mastermind facilitation, bringing people together. And it was really interesting because one of the people that participated with me was based in the UK, and the other one was in New Zealand. And then we had one up in Canada and myself. And we came together with the gift that Positive Intelligence gives to coaches who want to start the training of exploring the concept and the principles and seeing if it resonates with you. And I was not maybe 2 or 3 weeks into my training, and I was like, I want to use this. I want to bring this to other people. This is so powerful. And I was in the infant steps, the baby steps of learning, and just saw the potential in the positive intelligence. And that's then what led me to step into coaching
Mm-hmm.
and accountability. I think that we all need that in some form. So,
Yeah.
whether that's ourselves and it's our whiteboards and our sticky notes, and I have a couple of tools that I use, whether it's talking to somebody else, or whether it's sharing, or whether it's somebody else holding your hand who might, in a sense, be a mentor, or just something that we all need somebody on this journey because it's really lonely being an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur. You have wonderful ideas and we want to get that out there, and then we doubt ourselves and then we turn around in circles. And so, yeah, that's now where I am today and focusing much more on the accountability at this stage of my life.
Okay. And positive intelligence is definitely a new term for me. I've heard of emotional intelligence. Obviously, we've heard of IQs, your intellectual intelligence, but that positive intelligence, can you share a little bit more? Because like I said, this is new to me and probably to some of my listeners. What are some of the foundations? Like if someone was going to dive into it a little bit more, what are some of the steps when it comes to building that part? Because it sounds like that's something that could be applicable not just in business as an entrepreneur, but in any area of your life.
And that is so true. It is multifaceted and it does bring together the whole circle. So it's you and yourself, it's your relationships, and then it's your performance in
Mm-hmm.
your working environment and your well-being. So it's your relationships. It's wrapped all around all of that. And it has a relation to emotional intelligence and IQ. And
Mm-hmm.
what it is a program that helps you break free from these negative voices. We call them saboteurs and help you build basically what we like to refer to as mental fitness. And if
Yes.
we try to define mental fitness, probably it's giving you the strength and the
Mm-hmm.
resilience to respond to life's challenges that we all have, but with a leaning towards a clearer and a more focused mindset instead of allowing oneself to be derailed by stress and negativity and self doubt that we all have to work with. So, what it basically does is help you recognize what we call catching your saboteurs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an assessment that one does online. So, like EQ, like there are a lot of these dig into, your Enneagram, find out who you are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. But within the program, the saboteurs come up as things like the controller, the avoider, the restless. And it's not who you are. It's also got things like victim. It has, wanting to be perfect in what you're doing. So there's different ones: hypervigilant, the hyperachiever, which
Mm-hmm.
relates to many of us in business, the pleaser, which the women often fall into that role, but men do as well, interestingly enough.
Huh.
And these come from basically our childhood, and they are strengths. They're not weaknesses. That people often use as saboteurs, and it's such a kind of word. I wish I could find a different word for it, but they
Mm-hmm.
actually have strengths. And what happens is we have allowed them to get too loud and kind of rule and take over because we think they're serving us. And so through the program, you not only identify what your top three are, there are nine in total,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you then look at catching them and then activating the side of your brain that helps you to build this resilience and creativity and move into ease and flow. And you'll hear me say that a lot in my accountability, even in marketing. To me, ease and flow is the place to be, and
Mm-hmm.
to quieten those voices that are so loud. So what we do is we bring in a moment of switching from left to right hand side of the brain. And I'm not saying we don't need the analytical thinking side of our left brain, but when we're facing a challenge and we're feeling derailed, if we can just take a moment to just breathe, to feel centered where you're seated, perhaps to feel your feet on the floor, wiggle your toes, rub your fingers together, put your hands on your lap and just feel the fabric. These
Mm-hmm.
little moments that we do, and if we can do them for 10 seconds, we see a shift. If we can do them for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, we see a huge shift to
Mm-hmm.
then allow you to move into what we call the sage powers. And that is bringing in, okay, let me look at the situation. Like what just happened for you and me? We could be totally derailed. The internet packed up. One could get totally stressed over that.
Mm-hmm.
But we could be innovative and step into something about, well, let's look at a different way to approach that and find a solution and bring the calm back into the situation instead
Mm-hmm.
of beating ourselves up and saying, oh my goodness, that just got totally derailed. So
Right.
we use those sage paths, and I bring that into the accountability because I
Mm-hmm.
think that that is just so important to be able to look at one's challenges and catch those mental patterns and strengthen your sage perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I loved it. I heard so many different pieces that you said that this encompasses. So it's definitely not like toxic positivity where it's not like about just thinking positive. You talk about mental fitness, which I love, which is that resiliency piece. You talked about some of the practices that sound a lot like mindfulness, if I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're integrating some intention, some resiliency, some mindfulness, as well as then, like you said, that accountability piece, which to me speaks to consistency, and consistency is a key when it comes to all of these practices actually working. They're not one and done's. You have to do the things again and again and again to build that. But also too, I love how you talk about ease and flow. I talk about some ease and breathing room. I like a little space in
Okay.
my day,
Right.
to just pause. And so all of these things together, they're such tangible, simple practices that then when you put them together, holy cow, I can see where they do have such a massive impact.
Absolutely, and it's just this emotional awareness as well, because just as you say, it's not a fix it and you've got to always be happy and never recognize those bad emotions. But if we can come at them with a slightly different lens and sort
Mm-hmm.
of filter through that, but and I agree with you with consistency. But the important thing with consistency is recognizing what your capability is. I think a lot
Yes.
of people get pushed into a corner because they go, I have to do this. I should do this. I should show up on marketing. I should show up on all the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And instead saying, what brings me joy? I always, when I talk to clients about marketing, it's like, what brings you joy? Is it speaking on podcasts? Is it writing? Is it designing? Is it being creative? And recognize that and not push yourself into being something else. And
Mm-hmm.
then recognize, well, how often can you show up? What's realistic that you can give to your marketing side of your business without that you can continue to find joy? There is obviously work and there's
Mm-hmm.
hard work in that, but there does need to be an element of joy. And I'll come back with ease and flow.
Yes, yes. And I think, I've talked before with some other guests, as well as there's a book I love called Joyful. We talk about finding happiness, finding the things that light us up. But in this book specifically, and in general, they say, happiness comes from moments of joy stacked upon each other throughout your entire day and your week and things like that. And I think we
Mm,
don't give joy enough credit, because joy doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be a huge event. Joy can be, smiling at watching, a bird outside doing something. Joy can be a pause. Joy can be just that second that can still have that moment of happiness and joy.
I love that description, stacking on top of each other. And that is so true. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm looking outside in New Mexico where I am. Our skies are always so, so beautiful. They're so vivid blue. And
Mm-hmm.
there are these gorgeous clouds at the moment. So I think it's also that, when they say, where do you find awe in your day?
Mm-hmm.
What takes your breath away for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
And allow that to sort of, settle into your body as well, to feel it, not to think it
Yes.
all the
People,
time.
I don't think people even think about awe so much. I've looked into savoring is a practice that people don't talk enough about, awe and wonder and the
Hmm.
impact that they have. It's beyond just being mindful. It's beyond just gratitude. Awe takes it to like another level. And I don't even want to try and butcher the impact awe has. I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit more, but that awe, when it comes to that joy, it does create multi-sensory, where you're bringing into account, just like savoring, you bring feeling into it, you bring other senses into it. And that, I think, is where a lot of the impact comes from. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And, we often rush past how we're feeling and try
Mm-hmm.
and think our way through it or think what it's supposed to be. And, we avoid sometimes just, we always are helping other people, focusing on what we'll do later. But I think recognizing that feeling and awe doesn't have to be, just like you said with joy, it doesn't have to be off the chart. But I think it's just a moment. And it is tied into appreciation, I think, and stillness,
Mm-hmm.
just taking a moment and going, how am I feeling? What can I look at? And just sitting. I mean, the word also being bored comes up because,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
as children, it was like, oh, you're bored. And it's, you do something, you'd find something. But sometimes sitting and doing absolutely nothing is precious. It's
Yeah.
it's time well spent, just pausing in your day.
And I think we've lost that, unfortunately, over time. Now it's almost like we need to practice being bored again, because when we were younger, when I was younger, at least, like there wasn't the technology, there wasn't the
Hmm.
constant, something to do. And so we had to learn how to be bored. And I saw this one comedian once, he was like, we were mindful all the time because, you had to sit and wait. You had to learn to go from A to B in the car without a ton of entertainment, except for maybe a book and a board game or something.
And I
And
remember, do you remember playing I Spy or something and looking out the
yes,
window?
Punchbug, with the Volkswagens, Punchbug red, Punchbug yellow, all that stuff.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think kids are really good at when it comes to awe, because they appreciate just kind of how special some things are that maybe, like you said, we're rushing so fast, even to like take the picture, to capture the moment, to just appreciate and the moment for what it is. Like you said, the clouds, the sky, different things, and have that awe and wonder can definitely create that moment then for that positivity and to feel like you're connected. And that connectiveness, I think, is another big piece of that.
Yeah, and that's as you were saying that, it just makes me think of one of the sage powers, which is called explore. And
Mm.
that's when you take a moment to just observe, not judge, and just observe what is around you and then think of perhaps a different way of seeing something. And so that explore comes into so many different avenues, but I think once again, coming into business as a business owner, that allow yourself to explore.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we're so set on, I have to do the right things and only the right things, as opposed to just wander a little bit and see what works.
Right, yeah. And that's funny because for me, what ties into that is mind mapping. I
Mm.
absolutely love mind mapping and just dropping, if you were exploring, dropping these ideas onto a blank sheet of paper and then just kind of letting your ideas and things flow from that, and then coming back to your mind map and picking out, okay, what do I want to dig into a little deeper, as opposed to trying to do it all. Because once again, it comes, if you've got 100 things on your to-do list or 100 ideas, then you
Yeah.
you never pick up one. But if you're wanting to just kind of find the ones to work on and then tie them back together, I love mind mapping, and it's perfect for the creatives. You
Mm-hmm.
can grab colored pens. You can go to town. I take an artist's sort of drafting book, with the wire bounding, and just use that and put from everything. If it be travel, be business, a new idea, a plan for next year. I love mind mapping.
That's awesome. And that's, like you said, that probably creates in its own way, naturally, that accountability part then as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you can then transfer that onto a Google Doc if you want and go, okay, what are the next 3 steps I'm going to take that are going to move this element of this forward that I want to pursue? And then pick that out of there. And yeah, my other tool that I love using is Trello. I don't know if you're familiar with
Mm-hmm.
Trello at all,
Yep.
but that's also great because besides putting in checklists, you can also put in due dates, and you can have other people join you on
Mm-hmm.
your boards. You can join it with a client and work together. So Trello is another lovely tool to help use for accountability.
Yeah, I think Monday is supposed to be similar to Trello as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's again, it's that big picture, that big vision, along with the connection and collaboration and those pieces. These are the things that then work together to help you not only create better marketing, but in your own life as well, to kind of set those goals and achieve them, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
live the life that you're looking to lead, because it's not necessarily done in isolation. It's not done according to, one set rule book. And so finding that way that's going to work best for you and bringing people along with you is going to be that
Absolutely.
key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things, to back up a little bit, that I always do love to ask my guests about is gratitude, because I do think also that does get overlooked and underutilized as a form of self-care, as well as a power tool to like help you go forward, to help you kind of see the good in the sea of so many things that maybe aren't going well or aren't good, and that type of thing. And so what would you say are some of the things that you would say you're the most grateful for?
I'd love to just add a twist to that, and then I can share that
Absolutely.
with you. But a lot of us, we're told to journal about that in the morning or wake up in the morning and what are the first 3 things you're grateful for. But I'd love to suggest that one can also do this at the end of the day. So before you're
Yes.
going to sleep, sort of reflect back on your day and just ask yourself, be proud of what you've done well, even if it was a small baby step.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me today, I decided this morning to get some newsletters out of the way for a client, and I got onto that early. And so I'm grateful that I did that, because now it's not sitting at the back of my mind that I have to do that. But moving to a more sort of sensory, I am grateful. I have a very sweet dog who loves to go for walks, and I'm very blessed to have a wide open space on our property surrounded with trees, I'm loving this weather for some crazy reason. Even though we're moving into winter and it's freezing cold at night, it's really warm during the day. So I
Oh,
take her
nice.
for nice long walks and yeah, just looking around. And as I mentioned, we have such pretty skies. So
Mhm.
we had a beautiful sunrise this morning. So little small things to be grateful for.
Yes, those small moments of joy, like we said. So, how can people find you, Carol? How can they work with you to help that be more accountable?
No, well, I'd love to. Easiest place to find me is at my website, carolclegg.com. And I do host a complimentary monthly accountability circle
Ooh.
where people are welcome to join. They'll find the information on my website to sign up and join, to come together, and we just each take a turn to share a challenge. I support them with a WhatsApp group channel,
Hmm.
and we just reflect on things, not only from a business point of view of what's next step that we want to take, but also just bringing in these elements of reminding ourselves to reflect on joy and happiness and how to be kinder to yourself, how to be more peaceful. So that's my accountability circle. That's once a month. That's complimentary. And then at the moment, I am offering a accountability package, which is just a check-in phone call every
Hmm.
second week. And we just spend 20 minutes and we just work on the one next thing that you're wanting to do. And so it's just by working together and having somebody else hold your hand
Hmm.
to let you sort of move forward with gentle guidance, motivation. We lay out a little roadmap for you, and then I use tools to track your progress. So
I
that
love
is
that.
90 days, yeah, 6 private sessions and it's just over the phone, so it's no pressure. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm currently working on.
Because so many times it's like we know how to do the thing or what the thing is, but we kind of need that person with us to make sure they actually happen. So I love that. And all those links will be live in the show notes then to join the accountability group and those kind of things. So thank you so much, Carol, for joining us today.
Thank you, Daniela. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you got something out of this episode that really made you feel seen, supported, or just a little bit more grounded. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're up for it, please leave me a 5-star review. That will help more people find the show and join this community. I'll leave you with 2 of my favorite quotes. Alone, we may be strong, but together we're stronger. And when we support each other, incredible things happen. So let's keep showing up for ourselves and each other, and maybe even have some fun while we're at it. I'll talk to you soon.